Happy Saturday, NFL fans, Falcons fans. It's time for another episode of Jocks and Pigskins. This is Tom Pollen. Wanda Weidman will not be with us this week. She is celebrating her dad's 88th birthday. They're having breakfast together. So, and as I've always said, cherish your mother and father because you never know how long you're going to have them. And when it comes time, when she says that she has to meet with them for breakfast, she wants to celebrate her dad's birthday, well, I'm not going to argue with that, especially since we're still in the off season. But today we're going to do a little bit deep dive. We're going to start our deep dives on the Falcons, NFC South rivals. Start with the Carolina Panthers. I've done a lot of reading on the Carolina Panthers this week. So we'll look and see if this team has improved at all. 2-15 last year, finished behind the Falcons. Do they have enough? Have they done enough to improve that team and make a climb in the division? And I'm not going to tell you right now, but I'll let you know. We're going to look at it together. I'm going to look forward to your comments. What do you think? Always interested in hearing everybody's opinion. So before we get going, though, we do have to start. The show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Sign up with Prize Picks today and receive a match of up to $100 on your first deposit. So, double your money on your first deposit. Always great. It's a challenge as far as Prize Picks go. I've always found it a challenge, but give it a shot. Use the promo code ASU. Let them know where you heard about them. Support and help support the show. Help support the channel. And I'm going to give you your Atlanta Falcons season, NFL season player prop right now, which I've been doing the last 4 weeks. Again, we have Bijan Robinson. I gave you Bijan Robinson's rushing totals last week. This week, Bijan Robinson plus or minus 6.5 rushing touchdowns. So, if you think, and the Falcons are looking at using Bijan Robinson a lot more this season. So if you think Bijan looks pretty good to you, you think that's a nice number, I would say take the over on it. Especially since he's got a real quarterback behind him. And I think the Falcons are going to use him in some interesting ways when they get down in the red zone. And I would say that's a low total to go with Bijan Robinson. So 6.5 rushing TDs. You never know. But let's get into it. We're getting closer to training camp. And what I usually like to do when we start getting close to training camp is taking time to look at the Falcons' AFC South competition. And this week, as I said, to start the show, we're going to go with the Carolina Panthers. I did a pretty deep dive on the Panthers to see how they've improved themselves from last year and if they're going to be a threat to the Falcons this year. You never know. Not the way the Falcons are looking, but, have the Panthers done enough to make themselves a challenger in the AFC South and the NFL? Now, 32 players who took a snap for the Panthers last season are no longer with the team, which isn't surprising considering how that team finished up. New head coach Dave Canales. He's been an assistant in the NFL for 14 seasons. Last year was his first season as an offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's only got one season of experience as an offensive coordinator. The new OC, offensive coordinator, Brad Idzik, has no previous experience as an offensive coordinator. So I'm a little surprised that they don't have somebody in to do more with Bryce Young, who had a miserable season last year. The Panthers were 31st in my power rankings last year, just ahead of the Commanders. So, however, they did have a fairly difficult schedule, which I was surprised to see. The Panthers finished the season 1-11 against teams that finished the season over 500. Played 12 teams that finished the season over 500. So, not the easiest of schedules. Now they get a fourth place schedule this year. So we'll see how that comes out. But last year, yards per point, which I always feel is very important, 19.1 yards per point for the Panthers. And if you multiplied that out to 7 points, 133.7 yards of offense for every 7 points. The Panthers had to drive an average of 133.7 yards to score 7 points, the equivalent of a touchdown. And is one reason why, that tells you exactly, gives you one reason why the Panthers were so bad last year. On defense, gave up 12 yards per point on defense, which adds up to 7 points, 84 yards per 7 points the Panthers gave up on defense. So when you've got to gain 133 yards on offense for 7 points, 84 yards on defense when you give up 7 points, not going to win many games, and not surprised to see the Panthers do what they did last year, as bad as they were. A few stats with Bryce Young as the rookie. 16th in rushing yards per attempt, 23rd in generating negative pass plays, or not in generating, 23rd in negative pass plays on offense. So 11.5% of dropbacks by Bryce Young ended in a negative pass play, either a sack or an interception. So another reason why the Panthers had trouble generating any kind of offense. You can't, even 10% is too high. So 27th in third downs converted, 25th in turnover differential. They didn't force turnovers, which is so important to forcing offenses to work harder to score. 30th in total yards, and total yards means offense, kickoff return yardage, punt return yardage, and turnover return yardage. So a team that did not generate a lot of offense behind the first overall pick, Bryce Young. So he's heading into his second season, and the big question is, can he improve on any of that? He was last in passer rating at 73.7, took 62 sacks, which was second most in the NFL behind Sam Howell of the Commanders, and threw 11 TDs against 10 interceptions. So, and finished 32nd, was last in the league in net passing yards per attempt, 3.4. So, not getting the ball downfield. Didn't really have the receivers to get the ball downfield. All he had was Adam Thielen last year. And basically, not going to have much more than that this year. Now, the Panthers are bringing back both their starting tackles, Taylor Moton and Ikem Ekwono. Did release starting center Bradley Bozeman, who was with the team about 6 years, but they felt didn't fit into Dave Canellis' offensive scheme. So they got rid of Bradley Bozeman. Signed 2 new guards. They're going to go with 2 new guards this year, Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. And signed running back Rashad Penny to join Mike Sanders and Chuba Hubbard in the backfield. So it sounds like the Panthers are going to be doing a lot more running. Falcons are built for speed. They're going to kill you with their speed this year. The Panthers are going to try and grind you with 3 quality running backs. Well, Mike Sanders had a bad season, but Chuba Hubbard and Rashad Penny, they're going to be using quite a bit and going to be tough to stop in that backfield. But that's how they're basically going to is take the ball out of Bryce Young's hands more, not let him pass as much this year as they did last year with Frank Reich and Greg Tabor as their head coaches. I know Frank Reich was supposed to be the guy who is going to kind of help Bryce Young enter the NFL, groom him to be an NFL quarterback. Did not work and became a very rough period. The only real improvement they've made at wide receiver is they traded for Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. Deontay Johnson, 5 seasons with the Steelers, did make a Pro Bowl. So he is capable. Now, he had a rough time, as far as quarterback, but he, with Ben Roethlisberger, the last year of Ben Roethlisberger, he did make the Pro Bowl. So there is some quality with Deontay Johnson. Does not get deep. And that's one of the things I found with this Panthers wide receiver group is they're not going to get deep. So you can keep them in front of you with your secondary. So the Falcons with Jesse Bates and their, D. Alford and A.J. Terrell should be able to keep the Panthers receivers in front of them, and going to be a big advantage, at least when playing the Falcons. On defense, they were 8th in net passing yards per attempt, 15th in defensive passer rating, 88.8, which is pretty bad. The opposing quarterbacks did very well against them. 10th at 4.1 rushing yards against, and they were only able to generate negative pass plays on 6.9% of opponents' dropbacks, making giving their opponents an easier route to the end zone, not stopping them at any point, not generating sacks. And if you've heard me over the past few weeks, over the past couple of years, I am someone who believes in a defense that doesn't just pressure the quarterback, gets sacks against that quarterback, puts an offense behind the chains, makes it tougher for an offense to generate first downs and move forward on first downs. So the Panthers were terrible at that last year. And again, no surprise that they finished 2-15. Now they did sign Ashawn Robinson from the Lions to add to nose tackle. Add to Derek Brown, who had a Pro Bowl year last year. and is really the quality of this Panthers defensive front. So they're hoping A'Shawn Robinson can help beef that up. And brought in for their secondary, brought in safety Jordan Fuller from the Rams, who he had a very good season with the Rams last year. So some good things as far as what the Panthers were able to do to generate defense. They, at wide receiver or at defensive tackle, A'Shawn Robinson's probably going to be, Jaden Crumdity, I don't know if I got that name right, was a sixth pick for the Panthers in the sixth round pick in the 2024 draft. So he will be fighting for that job and, seeing what he can do to lift the Panthers in that on their defensive line. Shy Tuttle is still with the team, but I think A'Shawn Robinson is probably going to take Shy Tuttle's place. Somebody, Tuttle only had one tackle for loss, one sack, did not penetrate very well off the Panthers' defensive line last year. Let's see what else we have. So they drafted rookie Trevin Wallace with their third pick. Seventh pick brought in linebacker Michael Barrett. Fourth pick brought in Jatavian Sanders at tight end. They did let Hayden Hurst go. We're not able to get Hayden Hurst to drop his or take a pay cut, and decided to release him. And I think he ended up with the Chargers. Hayden Hurst is going to be with the Chargers this year. So the Chargers have done a heck of a job picking up players from around the league. Players that Jim Harbaugh likes and that he wants around on his team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jatavian Sanders fits in. Xavier Leggett was the Panthers' first round pick at 32nd overall. So tried to beef up the wide receiver game, not just bringing in Deontay Johnson. I'm having a rough time today, people. Very sorry about that. I usually give you a little bit better than this, fans. So they did beef up their wide receiver group with Xavier Leggett. Jonathan Mingo's coming back at wide receiver. So we will see if he can improve in his second season with the Panthers. And the second round pick, they took running back Jonathan Brooks, who I think was the top running back on the board, lasted until the second round. So you got four running backs who are going to vie for time on the Panthers. Rashad Penny, Jonathan Brooks. Mike Sanders might be the guy on the bubble. Did not run well last year after the Panthers brought him in from the Philadelphia Eagles. So will not be surprised to see Mike Sanders fighting for a roster spot with the Panthers. So didn't really bring in a lot. Traded their best pass rusher last year, Brian Burns, to the Giants. and are going to try and replace him with Jadeveon Clowney, who's been in the league for a while, traded youth for a veteran presence, and we will see how that works out if they can improve their sack total. Panthers were last in sacks. And again, that's why it was so easy for offenses to drive down the field on the Panthers. That's what I'm worried about with the Falcons, because the Falcons were at the bottom of the league in sacks. And trying to count on Arnold Ebiketie to up his game again this year, according to Pro Football Focus, upped his game last year, but trying to get him to up his game this year and get to the quarterback more. It's going to be a rough thing for it's one of the reasons why the Panthers brought in Jadeveon Clowney. The Falcons didn't bring in anybody, and it's going to be rough to see what the Falcons do. Can Braylon Trice make that difference? It's going to be interesting to see. Interesting to see Chargers go to the 3-4 defense, which is the same defense that the Panthers run, from the 4-3. So Jadeveon Clowney is good from the outside. Can he improve that sack total? That's going to be the question. Because if he can't, it doesn't matter what kind of improvement Bryce Young brings to the table this season. He's going to have a rough time. He's going to be behind the 8 ball, trying to bring the Panthers back from deficits, because this is a Panthers defense last year that allowed offenses a lot of leeway and allowed them to move the ball. So also, the Panthers are going to have to improve their starting field position. They were 30th in average starting field position on defense at 31.6. How is the new kickoff rule going to affect that average starting field position? That's what we're going to find out with a lot of teams this year. Is, how are teams going to adjust when starting field position is going to be at the 28th or 29th on kickoffs, and that's not counting punts and the starting field position you get from punts and punt returns. So, and the Panthers were pretty good at their punt coverage. We're going to see what everybody does with their kickoff coverage. That's going to be one of the exciting things to watch on the preseason, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think a lot of fans should be excited about it. I'm hoping that teams don't kick the ball out of the end zone and try and give up the 30-yard line. I'm hoping teams actually try and get the ball into the landing zone and see what they can do and see how they can do coverage. And it's going to be interesting to see, as far as teams, what strategy they use for punt coverage. Do you try and get kickoff coverage? Do you try to get kickoff coverage to the left or the right side and concentrate your coverage teams on those edges? Or do you try and get the landing spot in the middle of the field and try and cover, have your both sides of your coverage unit go in as a pincer movement and try and stop a kickoff return that way? So, as I say, right now, the Panthers were one of the worst teams last year in starting field position. Can they do better? I don't know. Out of the players on their roster, I don't know who's going to set up as their kickoff returner. Or if they use 2 kickoff returners, who's going to set up as kickoff returners? Not a lot of speed on the Panthers. As I say, they're going to grind it out. They are going to force you to stop them on the run. And which is completely opposite of how the Falcons are going to approach their season on offense and defense. Falcons, it's going to be speed kills. They're going after you with a lot of speed. All right. Rondale Moore is going to be, and Ray McLeod are going to be their kickoff return specialists, I would imagine. And punt return will be Ray McLeod. The Falcons are going to be a team that is going to be able to improve their field position this year. I think the Falcons are going to start with a lot better field position and have a lot better chance at moving the ball forward. So we'll see. I'm looking at the Panthers roster right now. Unless they use David Moore, who they acquired from the Seattle Seahawks, at one of their recovery guys, or try and use Jonathan Brooks as one of their kickoff returners. Going to be difficult to see. And I'm going to say that you can probably kick off against the Panthers and not give up the 28 or 29 yard line like a lot of experts had said that you're going to see offenses start at if a team decides to kick off in the landing zone. And that's not going to help Bryce Young either. I don't think the Panthers are going to be very good. I think the Panthers come in last in the AFC South this season. They've made some improvements on the team. They're going to win more than 2 games. But they have not made themselves more difficult to beat, in my opinion. And Dave Canales is going to have a tough time getting this team moving forward. And he's going to have a tough time getting Bryce Young looking more like that first overall draft pick, which is, again, why the Panthers brought in those 2 guards, are starting over at guard to try and keep Bryce Young clean and try and help their running game. But overall, I don't think Young has the targets. So it's going to be difficult. Now, as I say, they did bring in Jatavian Sanders, have kept Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, Stephen Sullivan, but can they generate offense the way it looks? I think you still have to have a passing game. I like their running game, but I don't think their passing game can take advantage of their running game. Larry Orange, somebody came in with a comment. So Larry Orange says Panthers at best will win 5 games in 2024. Larry, I agree with you. I don't think this is a team, even at a 4th place schedule, I don't think this is a team ready to break out and ready to challenge the Falcons in the division. So, again, we did the deep dive on the Panthers. I don't like what I see with the Panthers as far as how they improve their team. But we will see in the preseason. We'll see what in the first couple of weeks. Very tough to win when you're grinding the ball on the ground. And it looks like right now they don't want Bryce Young throwing the ball as much as he did last season. So we will see as we get into the preseason, though, getting closer to that time. Guess what? August 1st is the Hall of Fame game. The Chicago Bears against the Houston Texans. The Bears have 3 players going into the Hall of Fame. Texas have one. Andre Johnson, who fully deserves it. So it's going to be fun to finally get some football back on our calendars. First, that's all I have for you today. We're doing a 30-minute show today, a little bit more than 30 minutes. Wanda will be back next week and hopefully keep me more work on my mind a little bit more, because sometimes, as I say, I've lost train of thought a couple of times. And, keep me on the straight and narrow, which is what, Dave was very good at. But we will be doing a deep dive into the New Orleans Saints. One has already started on the New Orleans Saints. So it's going to be interesting to see what she digs up. To me, I think Dennis Allen and quarterback Derek Carr are on the hot seat. I think this is their last chance to shine. They lost out on the final wild card spot to the Packers last year. And if they don't get into that wild card or, challenge for the division lead, I think you're going to be saying goodbye to both to Dennis, to the Saints head coach and quarterback. And the Saints will probably be starting again. Might be one of the reasons why they haven't moved on Alvin Kamara yet, as far as giving him a new contract, if they think they're going to have to end up starting again. But that's all I have for you today. As I say, Wanda will have the Saints for you next week. I will have the Buccaneers for you next week. So we should be able to fill an hour easily. Again, I want to bring up Prize Picks, the sponsor of the show, sponsor of the channel. They will match up to $100 of your first deposit. So to use the promo code ASU to support our channel. Give our channel a like. I think we're getting close to 3,000 subscribers to the channel. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give the show a like. Support the show. I enjoy doing it for you every weekend. We're in the off season, so it's tough to do a full hour. But I hope you got something about, out of what I was able to give you about the Panthers today. And, everybody, we will see Wanda again. Happy birthday to her father, who's turning 88. And that's it. Everyone have a great week.